All right, everyone, let's lock in. I'm stepping into my role as your lead cybersecurity analyst today because we need to talk about a critical, rapidly escalating threat. We are facing a massive vulnerability that is actively compromising our digital ecosystem right this very second. But look, this isn't some foreign cyber attack. It isn't a traditional data breach either. This is an inside job. It's happening right in front of us on the exact platforms we use every single day. In this explainer, we're going to unpack the architecture of a threat that is systematically hollowing out the user-generated web from the inside out. We're calling this the dead internet trap.
So let's dive right into this systemic failure by looking at a pretty terrifying reality. Imagine you're urgently searching online for some life-saving medical advice. Instead of finding human expertise or, actual peer-reviewed science, you're fed dangerous, machine-generated sludge. In one documented, highly publicized instance, an AI system confidently instructed a user to literally eat a rock every day. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And the scary part is, this isn't just a funny little glitch. It's a glaring symptom of a massive structural collapse. We are currently trapped in a feedback loop where the internet is quite literally eating itself, completely burying genuine human knowledge under mountains of automated garbage.
Okay, here's our agenda for today's briefing. We'll start with a situation report on digital ghosts. Second, how to identify the indicators of compromise. Third, the monetization of your private data. Fourth, we'll look at threat vectors on Steam and Discord. And finally, we'll break down the model collapse loop. Moving to Section 1, SITRAP, Digital Ghosts, the inside job of platform compromise. We've got to begin our situation report by establishing a really hard truth. The dead internet theory? It's no longer just some fringe science fiction plot or a paranoid conspiracy. It's a present reality, and it has already obliterated half of our digital world. For years, we thought platforms built on human curation would be safe havens. Well, spoiler alert, we were totally wrong. The destruction of the user-generated web is being orchestrated by the very platforms that once championed human creativity. So picture this. You're scrolling through a forum at 2 a.m., reading this heartfelt, deeply personal story. How do you know the author is actually human? Well, you need to look for indicators of compromise, or IOCs. Watch for strange repetitions in phrasing, almost like a machine looping its own logic. Keep an eye out for arguments that just don't logically track under basic human scrutiny. And honestly, the biggest red flag? A profile created less than 3 hours ago that has somehow miraculously farmed 10,000 karma points. Yeah, those aren't people. They're digital ghosts, explicitly programmed to manipulate your emotions, push preset agendas, and simulate a totally fake human consensus.
Let's move to Section 2. Monetizing private ecosystem data and selling human curation. The absolute crucial point here is understanding exactly how the platforms we trusted monetized our private human data to fuel this parasitic takeover. Because they didn't just accidentally let the bots in, right? They threw the gates wide open and sold off the training data that made the bots so convincing in the first place. Let's trace the path of what we're calling patient zero. Now, for 15 years, Pinterest was this quiet, creative corner of the web, thriving entirely on original human ideas and curation. But then the shift happened. First, they harvested a decade and a half of that meticulously curated human vision. Next, they abruptly fired 15% of their human workforce to pivot to an quote-unquote AI-forward approach. And finally, they launched Pinterest Canvas, an AI generator that directly leaches the value from real people's art to just spit out ones and zeros. They completely rewired their systems to prioritize soulless machine generation, effectively punishing the very human creators who built the site's value from day one. And that brings us to the sheer financial motive behind the betrayal. $60 million. That is the annual value of the deals Reddit recently signed with tech giants like Google and OpenAI. And why? Just to give those companies unfiltered, backdoor access to your private discussions, your advice, your arguments, your vulnerabilities. The very platform people flock to as a sanctuary for real human interaction just became a literal goldmine for AI overlords. Every single word you typed, it was packaged up and sold to the highest bidder. And the devastating fallout of those multi-million-dollar deals brings us to a frankly alarming metric: 50%. Long-term users and platform moderators are now estimating that as much as 50% of all content currently on Reddit is written, generated, or heavily reworked by AI. Half. Think about that. You are navigating a space where human words have been literally turned into livestock for the machines. They feed on your data to learn how to imitate you more accurately, leaving all of us to constantly question if we're engaging with a fellow human being or just a script executing a command. On to Section 3, threat vectors on Steam and Discord, and how they are burying human creativity. Now, this plague of digital parasites isn't just limited to search engines and text forums. Oh no, the infection has spread to our ultimate forms of escapism and our most private channels of communication. Historically, Steam was the absolute haven for independent developers, but recently they entirely reversed their previous stance and just opened the floodgates to AI. And the result? A staggering 1 in every 5 games uploaded to the platform right now utilizes AI. We're seeing this massive, unstoppable influx of AI asset flips. Basically, these are low-effort products pieced together by individuals doing almost zero actual coding or creative design. It creates a massive digital landfill. Legitimate, passionate human creativity is being entirely buried beneath an absolute avalanche of automated content. Genuine games are going totally unplayed simply because human players literally can no longer find them in the sludge. And we thought moving to private, closed chats would keep us safe, but even our most secure, invite-only Discord servers are actively compromised. A malicious scraping service known as SpyPet successfully infiltrated these private spaces, stealing billions with a B, billions of messages from over 600 million users. This stolen private data is then funneled straight into training those exact predatory models we've been talking about. Let me be clear, absolutely nowhere is completely off limits when the corporate demand for human training data is this aggressive. Which brings us to Section 4, the model collapse loop, a systemic vulnerability. This is without a doubt the most severe ecosystem risk in our entire briefing today. We're witnessing the creation of a broken, totally unsustainable feedback loop generated by this inside job. The technical definition for this terminal phase is model collapse. Because these platforms have so thoroughly pushed out actual human creators with AI slop, the AI models themselves are now beginning to starve for fresh, real human data. So what do? They frantically scrape the internet, which, as we established, is now completely filled with content generated by other bots. The machines are training on their own synthetic sludge. They are literally eating themselves. As human users get frustrated and just log off for good, we are left with a computer ghost town, a barren, digital wasteland of humming machines feeding on their own decay, just waiting for users who are never, ever going to return. So I want to leave you with a final, absolutely critical threat assessment to think about. If these platforms and systems are perfectly willing to optimize out human curation, if they're willing to sacrifice our art, our conversation, and our utility just for the sake of machine-generated volume, what happens when those exact same systems decide that real humans are just an obstacle to their ultimate optimization? Consider that question closely before the next algorithm update completely obliterates whatever is left of our human history on the web. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Seriously, stay vigilant out there, watch your feeds, and maybe keep your most vital human connections offline and secure.